was coming from Algolia, that was one of the 26 at the time unicorns in France. I received a call from a sales operation person. Emilio, we are a YC-backed company. We just received our Series A. We're looking for the first GTM person in n8n by the end of this year. It would be X growth in terms of the company org, and then doing X 50 in terms of revenues in 2 years. Like it's something really peculiar.
Are we rolling? Sweet. Now my day starts.
You've been the first hire at n8n. You've got mostly what would be considered product-led, self-serve revenue. How do you actually go for enterprise? Where do you start?
We came into a moment where the company was really focused on the self-serve business, right? There was already a grip on top of that type of market. So the self-serve motion, and for the people that maybe are not used to this term, means that are just the small plans that are sold by themselves through an automatic way. So people are going to the website and they are purchasing the plan. At that point, we needed to discover the product, or why enterprises are purchasing your product rather than another product. There was this first adoption, and the power of n8n that is a product-led growth, and means basically that people are already using n8n for lighting up their lights in the house. They're then bringing into the company the product, and they're saying to their managers, hey, maybe apart from lighting up my bulbs, I can also use this to automate all my workflows and my manual tasks. And that's the power of the product, really. Like it's what let us crack the enterprise side of things. And then being really different in terms of product line, so being self-hostable. So there are a lot of verticals that are really critical for self-hostability. Think about defense, think about banking, think about healthcare. There are a lot of
like heavily regulated markets.
Exactly. The more the market is regulated, the more it makes sense. But then we saw also a shift, and I think it's not n8n, it's all the companies right now are going into another shift where the data governance is really important and needs to be regulated in the country or in, say, Europe. And so this gives us a lot of competitive advantage.
On an enterprise level, would you say that there was, like, let's say a key moment where you guys learned about your ICP?
The main point that allowed us to understand what was our ICP came also from the nature of the product itself. If you think about n8n and the self-hostability, you can imagine that it would be a regulated industry, and within the regulated industry, maybe, or even in the non-regulated industry, who would use a self-hostable product? It would be high sensitive data that are managed by a specific team. In our case, it would be more security, IT people, because the problem that n8n is solving is repetitive manual tasks, right? So the more you are doing a manual task, the more n8n makes sense from an ROI perspective, because it's cutting basically time to market.
How did you guys decide what your entry point and your wedge is?
You don't really decide yourself, right? At the start, when you have a few inbound leads, you focus on what you have. And so it's the discovery of that specific clients. And then, of course, there are discussions that you can do with whoever, with advisors, with the employees, with whoever you want. But then it's something that you discover through the early discussions. And that's why to all the startups that are coming to me, they are like two people in the company and they have maybe a cool product. But even if you have a cool product, you do not know really who's your ICP yet until you really have an exponential growth or clear data that are demonstrating that you cracked that specific segment. And even today, if you're asking me who's the ICP of n8n, there is for sure an ICP, but there is also a bigger bubble within, let's say, the ICP segment. There is even bigger, and n8n is really a generic tool, so it can be sales, can marketing, IT, or whatever.
Right. Talking about the inbound portion, this is a really important topic for reps. How do you decide what deals to pursue and which ones to ignore?
When you are scarce in resources, and in this time, the most scarce resource that you have is time, you need to prioritize.
Yeah.
For me, I would not disqualify by default some deals that are maybe small and are coming inbound or whatever, even at the start. If you're launching a product and it works, right? But then you need to prioritize it at a certain point, and you need to balance the time, the effort that you're putting into a deal, and what will be coming in terms of revenues. For sure, one of the main KPIs that you would be using, it's stupid to say, is really revenues. No, revenue is a very good, let's say, signal. But I would say that an effort is required on every type of client, right? So meaning that no client needs to be left in the end.
Yeah, when you're an AE or a rep at a company that is mostly inbound, you're viewed as an order taker. Agree, disagree? What's your take on that?
It's partially true. If you just process the order or an order taker, right? You're just an admin, basically. If you are going to be part of the scale of the product, if you are really one of the people that is creating the engine that then scales, or not really the leftover of the team, right? In the sense that the engine that moves the sales, so if it is inbound, outbound, or whatever, it's still the front line of the product, right? So it's important not to undervalue this. Also because whatever company you will join that is inbound heavy, at a certain point would become also outbound heavy. So at a certain point there is a switch, right? And it's the nature of all the digital startup.
Yeah. Could you take me back to day one? Like when you joined, what was the scope of the role? How's that changed?
Many things changed since I joined n8n, and n8n is the most valuable experience that I have in my curriculum so far. In a startup, usually everything changes fast, but then when you are in a rocket ship, things change even faster. That's what happened in n8n. So for sure, something I was ready for was change, but not at that pace. Everything changes from the GTM side. The size of the company I joined when we were like 40 people, and then by the end of this year, I guess we will be in the order of the 500. So doing X growth in terms of organic of the company and the org, and then doing maybe X 50 in terms of revenues in 2 years, like it's something really peculiar.
I mean, you guys are definitely an outlier startup in all the best ways. Paints us a picture of how you were sold the role and the vision, what was maybe accurate at the time, and maybe what did you not expect to be doing that you were doing when you first joined?
I was coming from Algolia, that was one of the 26 at the time unicorns in France. I was like there for 3 years and a half. So I was selling a search for e-commerces for people that are not really used to this space. Let's say it's when you're going basically in Decathlon or other type of website like this, you have a search bar, and then we were powering basically like the product side of things and all the order of the products behind the scene. It's a sort of, let's say, Google for internal websites. And then after 3 years there, the company started to be a little bit more mature, and I wanted in a certain way to focus on something a little bit more generic. So I received a call from a sales operation person, and she told me, Emilio, we are a YC-backed company. We just received our Series A. We're looking for the first GTM person, and that's where I thought my startup spirit could have been really coming out. And that's what happened, actually. So what was sold to me was pretty fitting with what I did in the end. That is, being in an entrepreneurial role, right? What I was expecting is not really just doing sales, was really to drive the first adoption of the product at the enterprise level and to understand a little bit how clients would adopt the product.
I want to cover the reality of being at a fast-growing startup. What's your take on the whole 996 narrative?
I won't really be polite in this type of answer, but this is really bullshit to say that if you're really working at a startup, and if you really want to make things good in an hyper-growth stage, it's impossible to work 8 hours a day. If you're working 8 hours a day, it means that you're not in hyper-growth, because the company is in that moment where you cannot really forecast the growth, and the company exploded in our case, and so you really need to be on top of things. I'm lucky that I have a team that is pushing me, and this is coming from our CEO also, that is pushing us to really stick to the 8 hours and even less, but what you want is to the company be successful. So I don't understand the logic of this, to be honest. If you want to work 8 hours a day, go to work for La Poste in France or the state in Italy. Everyone is like wandering to work for the state, but this is not the work of a startup. The startup needs to work in a very stressed environment with scarce resources and needs to excel in many things, and that's what we are looking to do.
What made that specific moment in time a good time to join? What were the green flags or signals?
I won't lie, there is a lot of luck in all the outlier choices, right?
For sure.
Then there are some signals. I wanted to really be in something growing rather than in a mature company. I started to look at the trends out there. Okay, there was the AI trends in general, but there was also the automation trend that was already started since a few years. And then the product of n8n, in my opinion, was making a lot of sense, because if you think about the positioning of n8n is a self-hostable product that was actually already used by thousands of people in the community. And what was out there actually brung our CEO and founder, Jan, to create the product, meaning that there were a lot of other products already out there. So we were not the first movers, but I guess when you're not the first mover, what really matters is that you learn from other, and then you launch something different. And that's what n8n did.
We had a guest on the show who said, when you're number 2 or number 3, people often say that you're at a disadvantage, but there are also advantages to not being the first. As you said, learning from the mistakes of number 1 and number 2. You've closed millions in revenue. You started to develop an enterprise muscle. You are at the front line of that. How do you feel like the balance between like a PLG and SLG motion works in real life? What do you lean on in that selling process?
When you have a PLG motion and you have such an engaged community, selling to enterprise and complex organization is easier. It's obvious. But then it's not even the community itself. It's create the love for the product. If you manage to create engaged users and users that are just waiting to buy your product, you're basically creating champions. It's not even that you have a champion in the company. It's really that the product has a great stickiness and people are really just a fan of your product. And that's the beauty of n8n, right? n8n has a community of people that really love the product. Most of the people that are using n8n are not even paying n8n. We have, I think, more than 1 million instances deployed in the world, if not more. It's really a lot of people using n8n, even as a hobby, and they really love it. And I think that's the enabler of even complex sales cycle. Then, of course, in n8n, in Algolia, in Salesforce, in every other organization I've worked with, are always complex sales cycle. It's always trying to engage with different stakeholders, trying to manage different people. But that's really the hard piece of the job, even in a company that has the best product of the planet.
Reflect on a deal that in hindsight you should have killed earlier, or that maybe you invested too much time into?
Because the product was really complicated. With a company like n8n, you need to learn a lot about the product. At the start, I was not doing really good. So at the start, there is multiple deals where I spent a lot of time thinking that would be like a huge opportunity. But in the end, it was too complicated for the company. They didn't have the skill to implement the product. That's one of the downside of working with a technical product. The more the product is technical, the more you need to be really careful of your stakeholder and who you are selling to. The more the probability that the implementation and the integration of the product will take time, of course, and this will let the deal be larger in terms of sales cycle. You need to be laser focused in the key moment that is the implementation time. You need really to focus on the most sensitive part, the deployment of the solution, how you manage all the actors that are on the integration side of things in order to close the deal.
How would you say that the qualification piece affects your ability to prioritize?
The qualification piece is really important. You lose a lot of time in the qualification side of things with prospects that are really not valuable for your goals, but you are also you're the front line for the branding of the company. You cannot just say, no, I don't want to talk to you. So there's really this muscle that you're going to train over time that then makes you really effective at the qualification side of things. I can feel when a company is ready to buy or not. But the more the product evolves for n8n, people started to use the product itself. So right now it's pretty easy. You're seeing if a person already understands what n8n is, if he or she has experience with the product. And I guess this works really with all the PLG products.
You can get a good feel for if someone's a good buyer or in a good place to buy. Are there specific key questions that you ask that always qualify, disqualify?
So there are two main products that we are selling. We are selling a more internal product and an external product, meaning that we sell embed that is more to expose the automations outside. So you can create your own product with basically the embed code. Of course, there are some specific questions that let me understand if the prospect is ready to buy. One of them is asking him really a very precise question, asking, hey, what did you build as of now? It's not even, did you build something? I'm already asking what the person built, because I take for granted that if the person didn't build anything, means that he's not ready. It doesn't mean that I will disqualify the person. It means just that
they need maybe a little bit more educating around the solution. Most startups have not mastered their outbound craft, but you also talked about timing and why that's important. So when it came to trying outbound in the past, what made it the wrong moment?
We didn't crack outbound at the start. Most of the startups I'm talking to, and even when I'm doing advisory, startups are focusing on outbound before they understand even the ICP. And when I was at the start in n8n, I was speaking with really top managers in previous startups and really like startups that exploded. And they were telling me, Emilio, like, why are you doing like outbound if you didn't even understand what your inbounds want? First thing first, understand your customer. And first thing first, if you have inbounds, just concentrate on inbounds. Also, I mean, depends on the number of inbounds that you have. If you have like 2 inbounds a week, probably is not enough to concentrate there. But I guess it's really important to understand the buyer intent and what brought also the inbound lead to write you to call you, right? Before going out and say, hey, I'm here, this is my product.
Would there be anything that you'd do differently now, looking back?
I would just not do it. I would just focus on what we had at the time. I was in a really small team at the time, and we needed really to concentrate on the inbound. But these are experiments, right? So I guess it's something that a startup needs. And even here, like, even now, we are a startup, a scale up at this point, and we do tons of experiments. And it's important. It's not something just A/B testing in marketing. It's something that sales needs to do in order to optimize all the process.
And when you say experiments, are you talking about like copywriting, like subject lines, CTAs, all that stuff, basically?
Of course,
Yeah.
it's copywriting. It's understanding what the right person to call is, how to answer to the gatekeeper. Everything around sales is not just on the outbound side of things, is also like really on the overall sales strategy.
Yeah.
And that's a big piece, I guess.
This is a segment of the show that most people are very much keen to hear about. What are the current tools or tech stack that you swear by?
I am a power user of the classical things apart from n8n. So we use Slack instead of Teams. We use Notion instead of the notes of Mac or I don't know, Word. We use the G Suite in general. And I'm really a power user of Canva. I'm a power user of Framer, but I like all the tools to be also a marketer apart from a salesman.
Are there any hobbies or hacks that you would share to help you not, burn out in your role today? Like, what do you do on the sidelines that keeps you sane?
Not to risk burnout. I'm that stupid that I'm building businesses on a side after work. So it's not really helping to not go in burnout. Depends mostly on, and it's not because I am a superhuman, but it's just because I like to be in a stressed environment. So that's it. But I don't have any specific thing that I'm doing in order not to be stressed. Business for me is something that really excites me. Like, it's something that really pumps me. So the more I work and the more I see the company successful, the more I'm excited.
Across the board, if there were moments in your career where you felt that slowing down would have actually been smarter than speeding up?
So I think slowing down allows you really to reflect and to understand if you're doing things correctly or not. And also here, this is really a valuable activity that everyone should do in life and at work, in whatever work, right? Is going out of the rat race for a moment and asking ourselves like, okay, what I'm doing is really valuable, like is bringing results. If the answer is no, you go and you take a moment to understand and to analyze what is not working. And I think it's something really important in every role, because really slowing down, for example, in a moment where you are overloaded of inbound leads, it's really allowing you to understand, okay, should I lose my time to answer to documentation, or should I invest more time like really going into the calls and speaking with customers? Of course, the answer is obvious, but then for some people, maybe this is not really that obvious. So with experience, I guess we understand this.
What would you tell a 28-year-old joining their first early stage company? What would your advice be?
Working in n8n is like working in 70 companies in 2 years instead of one. What you learn in a hypergrowth company is something that you learn probably in a normal and structured company in 10, 15 years. And that's why then you become really valuable for other companies when you go out of companies like n8n, right? What I would say to a 28 years old person is really study the market, try to understand what's the next technology, what's the next thing that will break the rules, and then try to do whatever you can in order to go inside of this company and learn as much as possible.
What would your approach be to get in front of the right people and make sure that your profile stands out?
What I learned, there is, and I mean, it's really obvious, but it's way more powerful to get the attention of people rather than to catch the attention of people and try to have the attention at all cost. And this works in everything. Works when you're looking for an investment from investors. Works when you are looking for a job. Works when you're looking for a flat in a really, let's say, over urbanized city in Paris, for example. You're looking for a flat in Paris, and you have 50 people that are looking for the same flat. So I think you need to find key to unlock the interest of your stakeholder, right? In n8n, when I applied, there were 2 job posts for the same position with a totality of 2,500 people already at the time. Why they choose me, I cannot tell you. It's a question that we need to ask them. But what I would have done if that was not the situation and I would have looked for a job like this, would have been, for example, being creative, sending a package of product from Italy to the CEO, trying to write letters, a video, a personalized video, sending something really funny, right? Something that catches the attention. And that's what people are not doing today. Today, they are just applying most of the time, also with AI there. People apply to many jobs and they're like, no one is looking for my CV. Yeah, of course, no one is looking to your CV because you don't stand out from the competition. That's it.
Yeah, I like that.
Thank you very much. And if you need anything else, let me know and I will be able to.
I will.
Some.
And that's in the trenches.